Chapter 4, Lesson 1 on the guided practice. Now you should not have watched this video until you've done the guided practice on your own. So let's go through these. The first question says, the table shows the total number of text messages that Brad sent over 4 days. Our first problem says, letter A, write an equation to find the total number of messages sent in any number of days and describe the relationship in words. So that first part, we want to write an equation to find the total number of messages sent in any number of days. What we learned earlier in the lesson was that we can find our output is equal to our constant rate of change times an input value plus your starting point. So what we have is our output is represented by the total messages, or M, and that's equal to our constant rate of change. Well, we have to go in and find our constant rate of change, and that's going to be our change in M, or a change in the number of messages, divided by the change in D, or the change in days. This should look really familiar because we spent all of Chapter 3 trying to find our constant rate of change, also known as slope. So to do this, we're going to find the change in messages. So 50 to 100, that's a change of 50. 100 to 150, also a change of 50. 150 to 200, also a change of 50. So our change in the number of messages is going to be 50. And then calculate the change in the days. So from 1 day to 2 day, that's 1. From 2 days to 3, that's 1. 3 to 4, that's 1. So our change in the number of days would be 1, or we could say 50 messages per day. So our constant rate of change would be 50 times our input. Now our input is going to be represented by D, the number of days, plus any starting point, and that would be how many messages did we send on, or did Brad send on day 0? So what we could do is use our table to help us figure that out. So we're at day 1, there are 50 messages. If we go back 1 day, and instead of adding 1, we subtract 1, we'd be at day 0. And if we go back the rate of change, instead of adding 50 messages, we take away 50 messages. Well, 50 minus 50 is 0. So on day 0, he sent 0 messages, which would kind of make sense because we shouldn't start off with having any messages sent when we first get a phone or a phone plan, so that would be plus 0. We can also rewrite this equation, instead of having the plus 0, as M equals 50D, and because plus 0 is just going to be 50D, just leave it at that. Now, the second part of A is explain or describe the relationship in words. So the total number of messages equals 50 messages per day times the number of days. So the total number of messages equals 50 messages per day times the number of days. That brings us to part B. Now part B says use the equation to find out how many text messages Brad would send in 30 days. So we're going to use that information where D equals 30 days and our equation M, or the number of messages, equals 50 times the number of days, and in place of days we're going to substitute 30. So we would say M equals 50 and substitute 30 days and then multiply to solve. So 50 times 30 would be 1,500 or 1,500 messages. So in 30 days, Brad sent 1,500 messages.